Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Inner Conquest, the world's greatest modern metaphysics channel. I'm your host, Jacob Edens, and today we are going to be discussing how to exercise your will. So when you think of different metaphysical laws, right? So you think of something like law of attraction, law of assumption. They have one thing in common, right? Which is your ability to focus and your ability to direct your attention. Now, when you direct your attention, what you are doing is you're taking power and potential and you're placing your awareness on something, because what you focus on, you create more of. So if you think of it as a stream of consciousness, you're moving that stream into a fixed position that is focused on what you want, like you're moving a spotlight, okay? So when you go throughout the entirety of your day in an effort to construct the reality that you want to understand that everything that is external to you was created through what we call the blueprint reality, which is what people call a fourth dimensional reality, in opposition to what you could call a third dimensional linear reality, right? So when you assume and think as the architect forms the blueprint in his mind, the house in that higher dimension is created and it manifests, which just simply means unseen to seen, into a third dimensional reality, which is an external see it, smell it, taste it, touch it, five sensory experience, okay? So when you're creating, what you're doing is you're taking that fourth dimensional reality, right? You could call that your mind, your mental reality. Like if I imagine having car keys in my hand right here, I'm having the experience of car keys in my hand right now. But you can't see that because it has not manifested in the third dimensional reality, which is a lower keyed down reverberation of a higher plane, right? That's why there is what people perceive as a time delay here, because it's a lessened state of a higher dimension. So if you were to explain a higher dimension to somebody without using any of the terminology, you would say if you woke up in a lucid dream and you go, I have car keys, and they're in your hand immediately, then you have manifested immediately. You thought about it and now it's here and you can touch it, right? You're in a higher sped up version of reality. A lucid dream would be a good example of that. So when you're here, you're in a slowed down reverberation of reality. So when you're playing within the context of understanding how this system works, essentially what you have is an element of what you could call faith and persistence, which is not necessary if you were in a higher reality. So understanding the context of this individualized human experience is important, because without the context, you can't have faith or loyalty to an assumption because you don't understand why that would make any difference. Right? Why does that matter? Well, it's because if you're in a higher plane of existence, you create things with your mind and your thought effortlessly, easily, and immediately. Now, if you're in a place where it's like you pour molasses over everything and you go, I have a car key, right? Boom. This reality is moving to meet that mold of that fourth dimensional reality, but it's slower. And there's more cooperative components that have to move in congruency to fit in with the templated structure of this reality to quote unquote manifest that thing. So once you understand that, what you want to do is understand that every single aspect of your life is essentially a reflection of an individualized adopted state of consciousness that you have identified with and or embodied, okay? So if you have a state, and what is a state? A state is a parameter. If I look at the United States, there are 50 states. How do you tell the state of California from the state of Texas? Well, there's a different shape and there's different contents. So a state is parameter and its contents. So if I'm in a depressed state, I have a parameter of depressive awareness. I'm looking only and focusing only my awareness on depressing shit all the time. And then the contents of that box of awareness feel like trash. They feel like shit. So you successfully embody the state of depression. And then if you have a state of happiness, right, your awareness is focused on things that are happy and making you happy. And then internally in that state, you have a feeling, a vibrational state of happiness, right? So the way that you go throughout life is you're always in a state. You're never not in a state. You're in a human body, you're in a state of consciousness, you're in a state of awareness. So once you understand that, then you can take your consciousness and you can apply it directly and intentionally to wanted states of consciousness that are of your choosing. Because until you direct your individualized conscious mind, you're a slave to whatever states are being impressed upon you. Now that brings me to the second point. When states have been impressed upon you your entire life because you didn't understand, I'm not talking you individually, I'm talking every single person, because when we come in here, we forget all these things, and that's why it's so fucking crazy. You have an underdeveloped conscious willpower, meaning that you've been dominated and enslaved so much by these states and these illnesses and all this shit and all these beliefs. It's all fuckery, okay? So essentially what you are is an eternal soul in a fucking non-eternal human body, which creates a lot of ridiculousness because it's like plugging in a 10-ton mega nuke battery into a fucking RC car, okay? So when you understand that you are constrained by the body, but you are beyond limitation, you're limitless, now you have a dynamic environment that essentially limits and focuses you to this templated experience. So when you understand that you create the reality through the virtue of your thought and through the virtue of what you could call a vibrational offering or an oscillating frequency that is in alignment with your, what you could call soul signature, right? Because you are essentially a soul that is in a body. And if you don't understand that, just wait till somebody dies and then go talk to them. Can't fucking do it. The body don't work no more, right? So guess what? You're not a fucking body. You're in a body, which is great because even if this thing gets all fucked up, don't matter. You're going to be okay. So when you understand that, you understand that that real you oscillates closer to that fourth dimensional reality, meaning that you can think and things happen to you. Bam, bam, right? So as you master your mind, you master the fluctuations of your attention, and you master focusing primarily first on that internal reality, because as that higher oscillating frequency, as will be done in heaven, will be done on earth, right? What does that mean? The contents of your mind get expressed on the earth. I'm an architect, I got the house in my mind, now it's expressed in the third dimension, okay? So as you get that mechanism down, you understand that who you are at your core is essentially a thinker and a focuser. Those are your two primary faculties. You can think and you can focus. That is who you are. That is your power position. That is your innate beingness. That's why people call individual souls creators. You are an aspect of God, which is a creative being because of who you are. When you focus on something, it gets more and more and more. You see some contrast, you make it better. You think, you become. I am this, I am not this, I am this, I am not that, right? So you're constantly using your environment to decide your identification of who you are, and you're chronically focusing on things. So the easiest way to get your reality back into alignment is to affirm, I am a perfect thinker and focuser. I am always focused on what I want and things the way that I want them to be. And when stories come in, you craft them the way that you want because you're a creator. You're not a servant to whatever comes in your mind. But as you have been buried in a place that has seeked to impress all sorts of different beliefs, structures, and states of consciousness that are not useful to you, on top of you, you actually lose your will and yourself. Your soul actually kind of shuts down like this, and then you get worked like a fucking puppet by all of these different beliefs that were put on top of you and all of these states of consciousness within which others have dwelt and impressed upon you because you didn't have the conscious faculty to defend your mind. So as you get stronger, what you are doing essentially in the beginning is you are focusing your mind. And I called this video 1-inch coffin punch for a reason, because if you're in a coffin, somebody buries you in a coffin, right? Neville Goddard talks about the different type of soul being buried in Golgotha, which is the skull, right? Now, the real you is buried under this false self, which is essentially the ideation that you're this temporary human who's going to die and all of this stuff, right? It's a costume character that you adopt, which is still you, but it's through a faulty, distorted lens. So as you begin to wake up in the coffin and you realize that you're constrained in this fucking place, right? Because you're not free. You're governed by belief systems, points of awareness, focuses that keep drawing you in. And at some point you're like, all right, this is fucking stupid. I need to design a life the way I want to design it because that's who I am. I'm a creator. I'm not a slave. So as you go through that process, you'll begin exercising your conscious will more and more as an individualized soul. And what that looks like in the beginning is this. You're in the coffin. You have no room to move. There's no maneuverability. You have no space in your mind. There's nowhere to build anything because you're fucking covered in all this shit. So what you begin to do is you begin to focus your mind. I am this. I am this. I am this. I am this. This thing happens. No. I am this. This is like this. No. This is like this. And oftentimes as you tackle a hardcore belief structure or a state of consciousness within which you've dwelt dominantly for a long time, that impression is so heavy and your conscious mind is so weak from lack of exercising it that you can't really fight it that effectively. So what you have to do is just keep hitting it over and over and over and over and over. I am this. Nope. You have a sickness, right? No, I'm healthy. Boom, doctor. Damn. Blah, blah, blah. No, I'm healthy. Bam. Blah, blah, blah. No, I'm healthy. Bam. Blah, blah, blah. And then you'll see it start to slowly morph, and then it'll come back stronger. And you're like, no, I'm healthy, right? And what happens is a lot of people give up because of the severity of those impressions that have been placed on their mind. But the thing is that your will is always stronger than everything around you, because you can always choose where to place your focus, and you can always choose another thought. It's not even a strength thing. It's a choice thing, right? The very nature of your being is free. It's not a slave, or else it would be totally enslaved for all eternity. And if you're an eternal being, you've gotten really good at not getting fucking killed, right? So there's nothing that can fucking overcome you permanently. It's just the constraint and the oppression of the previous belief systems and structures that have basically been installed first into your body, because you're in a body. So when you have negative thoughts and emotions, it's because your cellular matrix structure has been programmed with different thought forms and belief systems that are not of your own choosing. And because you're in the body, you identify with the body because you don't remember anything because you had your memory wiped. Now you're dealing with this system that is quite literally engineered to work against you. So first you conquer your mind with the 1-inch coffin punch. You're in a coffin, you're buried with all this shit. What can you do? You can move your fingers. Well, when I do this, it doesn't do anything. Well, when I do this, it doesn't do anything. Well, the 1,000th time you get a little nick. It's 2,000 times, you start a little crack in the coffin. Now your finger is getting stronger. Now you're getting stronger. Now you can do this. Bam, bam, bam. And then you start to break the coffin a little bit, and then you start to crack the shit open. And now when you come out of the coffin, you're so fucking strong because of all of the weight and oppression that's on you. Your will is quite literally indomitable. And when you awaken to the fact that you're the creator of your reality by the virtue of your ability to think and your ability to focus, you understand that the power comes from your conviction and your will and your willingness to not budge when faced with opposition, not from an external reality, because once the reality has been created in this slowed down, keyed down, reverberative reality, it is fixed, right? It's slow. So where do you go? You go to the higher dimension where you can have what you want now. No, it's like this now. No, it's like this now. Because this reality is responding to essentially the vibrational composition, the vibrational escrow of the frequencies within yourself are dwelling in. So as you begin to just choose what you want, choose what you want, choose what you want, choose what you want, see some evidence, go, nope, that's just a byproduct of an old belief system, an old awareness point. That's not a big deal. I go back here. You begin to build your mind consciously to have veto power and non-acceptance of things as final that are not the way that you want them to be, because everything outside of you is always changing. The only eternal aspect is your soul, and it's inside of you, and it has an imaginative faculty, which are called mind, and they're called speech. So the way that you cultivate reality is you think and you speak to yourself as if they are the way that you want them to be, because you're a creator, and by creating the things that you want, you are enforcing your will. So when something you have been speaking and affirming and edifying with your consciousness doesn't immediately conform to what you want to do, you have two options. You can accept that as a final reality and by that determine that you are weaker than that thing and make a god out of it. Or you can say, no, this is just a latent reverberation of maybe some shit I've been thinking about for 20 years this way, right? So it's a little more fixed, but I am stronger than this thing. And then you just go back into the rigmarole of the story that you want, and you dominate it until you eventually conquer that thing, and the thing has to yield to you. And once you have enough things yield to you, you understand that the uncapped potential of your awareness and your focus have no limitations. There's no upward ceiling of things that you cannot create in this place with that being said, it is a templated structure, so there are certain dynamic rules within this environment, right? So you are limited in that way, I guess, right? But we can push those boundaries, and we can certainly change things like health, wealth, and relationships, right? There's no reason that you have to tolerate any aspect of your life that's not the way that you want it to be. And that all starts with that little 1-inch coffin punch, right? And oftentimes what you're dealing with is a state of consciousness that's glued to your fucking cells in your body that sucks. Or you have a thought form that fucking sucks. And it's like this all the time. And that's why you go through life like you have a fucking hatchet in your head and you're like, God damn, dude, this is really bugging me. I wish this was better. And before you know it, 6 hours have gone by and you felt like this. And now you got a crick in your neck. And you're like, God damn it. Don't tolerate that ever. You don't need to tolerate any negative emotion ever. A negative emotion is like an empty gas gauge. Do you tolerate an empty gas gauge, or do you go fill your fucking car up with gas, right? And the way that you fill that up with gas isn't even you have to go to the gas station. You just see it is already filled up in that fourth dimensional reality and persist in that because you know that this thing's already moving to do it the second that you assume it's that way. There's just a slowed down thing, and that the only thing that can fuck that up is if you change that focus by being what's called double-minded. It's empty, it's full, it's empty, it's full, it's empty, it's full, it's empty, it's full. It can't get a clear signal. So you just broadcast strong signals with your will. You fix with your will. No, I am this. No, I am this. No, I am this. No, I am this. And the old awareness will come up and confront you, but you overcome it one bit at a time. And that starts internally with any feeling, any thought, any emotion that is not up to par with your standards. Because you don't have to live in fucking bullshit. You get to live a life where you feel fantastic all the time. This place works for you, and you get to have what you want and be who you want to be, no fucking exceptions. You get to be a version of you that is fucking awesome. And you get to have a life that's awesome. Why? Because you decide it. There's nothing outside of you that can impress anything upon you unless your will is weak and your conscious mind wavers. So every day you consciously affirm, my will is stronger than this. I am a perfect thinker and focuser. I am able to create through the virtue of me being a fucking soul. That's who I am. And anything that tries to tell me otherwise than that is a lie. And I don't believe in lies. So as you get stronger, every time you feel like you have to accept something and you don't, and then you describe it as if it were the way that you want it to be, you get +1 hit points to your little damage modifier on your sword. You actually level yourself up every single time you take that conscious choice and choose in the direction of your favor. This person said this to me. It made me feel like this. Who decided that? No, I feel great all the time. Me and that person have a perfect relationship. Look, let me see it right here. Thinking and assuming, broadcasting perfect signal. Oh, old reverberation. Nope, it's like this. Broadcasting perfect signal. Conforms. You won. Victory and glory. So the only thing that can hold you back is a weak will. So you have to understand that you become what you attach I am to. And when you say I am someone with an indomitable, unconquerable will, who is able to think and focus perfectly 24/7 on what I desire, now you fucking got it. There's nothing else that can really overcome you, because everything that tries to impress itself upon you from a metaphysical standpoint that is unpleasing to you registers as unpleasing because it has distortions in it. Your fucking emotional complex system isn't stupid. You know that if there's distortions, if you drink water and it tastes like gasoline, you probably shouldn't drink the fucking water, right? It's not you being like, you're picky about water. No, when I drink this water, it tastes like gasoline, and gasoline is for cars, and I'm not fucking Lightning McQueen. So as you get more and more power back, you are essentially peeling off these old states of consciousness that have held you down for so long, and you're ripping these thought complexes that have dominated you like a sick ruler in a tyrannical situation, and it's all been because you accepted it, but it's not really your fault because you came into a place where you had your memory wipe and you got fucking spawn camped right off rip with a bunch of bullshit. So it's all good. But your will is supreme. Your will is the power. Your will cultivates and construes the reality to manifest your desires. Your will is the powerhouse. Money's not the powerhouse. People in your network isn't the powerhouse. Your will is what is the powerhouse. And once you start exercising it, You become violently aware that what you accept to be true plays out in your reality. Not to say that there's not a foundational of universal truth, but within that, there are perspective truths that you can adopt. And by adopting different perspective truths, you can manifest, bring unseen to seen in your reality. So as you overcome all of these old states of awareness, you're building that conscious mind, you're building yourself up, you're understanding that the only governor of your own power is your own internal belief structure. And a thought that is a belief is just a thought that has been repeated so much that there is non-contradictory energy and such, it does not have resistance behind it, and thus it flies like a fucking bullet train. So all of the things that you want them to fly like bullet trains. I always have more than enough. I'm free to go wherever I want. I'm extremely healthy. All my relationships are fantastic. I look and feel and act like the highest version of myself 24/7 because I am the greatest version of myself. Why? Because I fucking say so. And then you hear the voice of, one of your family members and you go, fuck off, right? I'm not being dominated anymore. My will is supreme for me and so can yours be, right? Unless you give it away to something. So today's talk is about personal empowerment, conviction, willpower, and the internal mechanism of your body being a reflection of what you think and believe to be true. And your will always has the ability to do veto. No, it's like this. Veto. No, it's like this. And the more that you exercise that, the more you begin to dictate reality, right? Consciousness is the dictator of reality, not because you're like that Sacha Baron Cohen movie, like The Dictator, right? No, because you, as the story writer, dictate, like into an iPhone, today I'm having a great day. Today, everything worked out for me. Today was fucking horrible. I'm a loser, right? You're the dictator of reality, and reality is a reflection. So when some bullshit comes up and tries to get you to dictate what it wants you to dictate, you're that thing's bitch. And don't be a bitch. Be a fucking cool dude or cool gal who fucking designs their reality the way that they want it to be, while following the golden rule. Don't hurt anybody. Think about how you'd want to be treated. Treat them that way. You can never fuck it up. So I love you guys. If you guys want to have future videos made, feel free to leave that in the comments section. Additionally, the link tree has all of the coaching stuff. I know you guys want coaching. You just can't wait to get it. So that's where it is. If you want to check that out. But more important than any of that stuff, go conquer, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.